After Ghostwatch was broadcast, many were furious to discover they'd been tricked by a cunning blurring of fact and fiction.
You used factual presenters. You meant people to be deceived.
You toyed with the emotions of the audience because the audience weren't actually sure, or I wasn't, actually sure if it was fact or fiction.
Ghostwatch had confused people by being a piece of fictional entertainment masquerading as fact. Shortly afterwards, a new genre in which fact masqueraded as fictional entertainment rose in popularity. Nosy Parker Fly-on-the-Wall documentary series, exemplified by the original 70s incarnation of The Family, had been around for several decades.
It is going to be a tremendous intrusion into your privacy, because we will film everything.
But during the 90s, they morphed into a populist new genre, the docu-soap, which made stars of regular incompetent people spoons, such as Maureen Rees from Driving School.
Whoa, for Christ's sake!
She nearly killed someone. Before long, docu-soaps were focusing more heavily on the soap aspect, turning their participants into bona fide stars.
And this lady is, she's going to be a very big star. She really is a wonderful talent. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jane McDonough.
These were documentaries with all the factual information stripped out. Well, nearly all. There was still room for the odd statistic.
By the end of this week, you will have eaten, in total, 40,000 pounds of meat and poultry.
Imagine if when the passengers shat it all out, it came out the back of the ship in a long, unbroken turd rope, like the ones that hang off goldfish, you know. Anyway, that's a side thought, best to ignore it. And just as documentaries were under pressure to become more populist, so was the news. Ever since satellite news first appeared, the landscape had become more competitive and the fight for impact intensified.
This is Sky News. 10 Britons will sell their kidneys to this man.
As a consequence, across the board, the graphics steadily became more fearsome and bombastic, the sets more cavernous and self-important, and the delivery more theatrical.
The Liberal Democrats have accused the other two parties of gazing into the gutter.
And part of this more crowd-pleasing approach was that the opinion of the viewer grew steadily more important. This situation reached a peak in 1997 after the death of Princess Diana, when the opinion of the man in the street actually became the emotive focus of much of the news coverage.
Good evening. It's been a day like no other. A day for the people, stunned by the news of Diana's death, and a day that rewrote the rules about how a grieving nation should react.
The outpouring of emotion just grows by the day.
Queen's not in residence today, but where the hell is the flag? Eh? You see what I'm saying about the establishment?
Current affairs was no longer a stern proclamation from the establishment and was becoming more like a public sounding board. News in general had started to move away from explaining the world to us and move towards us explaining our view of the world to them.
If you've got a story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. The email address, as always, yournews.
All the while, the internet was starting to overtake TV as a source of instant news. And just as newspapers reacted to TV by becoming spicier, so TV news morphed into rolling news, in which everything became a sensational, non-stop crisis full of incremental, horrible developments.
We can now tell you that he's actually unconscious and his kidneys have stopped working.
It's become a hope-sapping broadcast from the depression dimension as someone simply reads aloud a list of the worst events in the world.
He killed his 74-year-old grandmother, also his mother, his uncle, his cousin, his 15-year-old second cousin. In addition, he killed a baby who was 18 months old. He killed a sheriff deputy's wife. He killed 2 pedestrians. He killed a petrol station assistant. He killed a motorist. He shot the chief of police, and he shot himself. We'll let you digest that for a moment, and we're going to be back with all today's top stories and indeed the business news.
Thanks for that. Today's news often seems to be about nothing but the thrill of the chase, an endless parade of fresh horror piled upon fresh horror. No time for reflection, just pictures. Look at this, then look at this. Come on, tune in, rubberneckers, have a bloody good gawp.
We'll just come underneath this cordon. Barry, the cameraman, can you get under here? We'll just forgive the camera just moving around.
Soon it all becomes meaningless, which has the side effect of making reality itself feel somehow unreal, like a work of fiction writing itself, a destiny beyond our control, and all we can do is stare at it in stunned desperation. And if 24-hour news was stranding viewers in a nihilistic wilderness, the other source of knowledge, the TV documentary, had changed too. Where once documentary experts were expected to speak and walk around like academics, there's a growing assumption that today's viewer won't pay attention to facts unless there's a star attached, preferably one with a shaky link to the subject. For instance, because the actor Ross Kemp played a hard ex-soldier in EastEnders, he was considered an ideal choice to send to Afghanistan to show us how a real war works.
It's the most exciting morning I've had in a very long time, I can assure you of that.
And weirdly, it turned out he's actually pretty good at this, all of which opened the floodgates for other celebrity experts. One consistent thumbprint of expertainment is to confuse fictional characters with the actors that portray them. So, because he played a vet in African-based Wild at Heart, ITV thought it would be a good idea to send Stephen Tompkinson animal mending round Africa. In fact, even Tompkinson seems to have forgotten he's an actor.
My journey begins in Tanzania on Africa's east coast, where I'll test my veterinary expertise with some of the hardest working vets in the world.
And if you need an expert on cats, who better than Joanna Lumley? She's a bit feline, well, she sort of purrs when she talks. I mean, she even looks a bit like a cat. Christ, this is perfect. She must love cats. She'll show us the family tabby in a moment. You wait.
My journey begins here, at home. And it begins with a confession. We don't have a cat.
Well, I suppose it must be quite hard to find someone in Britain who owns a cat. No one seems to have proper expertise no more. Griff Rhys-Jones's chief qualification for splashing round Britain's rivers is that he's 60% water like the rest of us. While sending renowned investigative journalist Daniel Dyer to explore the phenomenon of UFOs seems odd because he's not an expert and seems to have made his mind up before he sets out, according to the title.
So I'm going to ask you straight away, I mean, do you believe there is intelligent life?
In this room, he's also easily swayed by spurious evidence like dodgy footage of what looks like a rubber alien mask at a window.
No. What the hell is that?
Hope no one shows him Santa Claus the movie, he'll shit himself. These days, you don't even have to be vaguely suitable to front a documentary series, provided you're a celebrity.
I've always been passionate about rave culture, and I'm on a very personal journey to discover the roots of this fascinating scene and its diverse yet controversial musical legacy.
Summer of Love, 88, there was some big parties. 89 was probably even bigger. You know, some of them dudes were like 10,000 strong. Everyone was together, and you could be playing a tune at 120 BPM, go down to something like Aphrodisiac or something, which was like about 100 BPM. All the girls on the podiums, all the dancers everywhere, glow sticks, just a sea of glow sticks everywhere. Yeah, and don't you remember the dummies? You must have had Vicks rubbed on your back at one point when you was at a rave. Everyone had that. Yeah, they were the days, though, eh? The old raving, wicked. It'd be nice to go back, though, wouldn't it? To, like, the proper days when we was all out there.
Once documentaries were happy to show you stuff and take time to let you absorb it. Gradually, they morphed into grandiose visual spectaculars like Walking with Dinosaurs.
We will show you how these magnificent creatures live, how they eat, fight, and reproduce.
Sensation was starting to overwhelm fact, and before long, if we wanted to learn about, say, the Blitz, it was no longer good enough to listen to people who actually lived through it. No, boring. Instead, you had to hold your own Blitz in shows like the TV experiment Blitz Street, which would answer the burning question of what would happen if 1940s German explosives were dropped on British houses, a question most of us would have thought was pretty comprehensively answered by the 6-year experiment known as World War II. To see where it's all heading, look no further than Deadliest Warrior, a flabbergasting show which explores history's more fearsome brawlers by pitting them against each other in a manner which defies both sense and taste.
The notoriously evil Nazi Waffen SS, Hitler's deadly assault forces that launched World War II, versus the vicious Viet Cong, murderous masters of jungle warfare.
Each week, 2 sides are chosen, and then the Deadliest Warrior team gleefully explore the injurious possibilities by road-testing their respective arsenals on biomechanically accurate dummies and the occasional dead animal. For instance, here we discover what happens when you detonate a Viet Cong landmine beside a deceased pig, which sounds like the most mental Heston Blumenthal recipe of all time. Basically, what they've done there is they've taken the tragic futility of war and used it to blow up a pig. Once they work out who's got the edge in which top Trump style category, their resident computer expert runs a simulation pitching the 2 sides against one another in an imaginary mind space from which only one can emerge victorious. The thing is, it's so far removed from reality, you end up picking sides like it's a sport, which means it's possible to watch this and find yourself cheering on the Nazis, like they're Tim Henman or something. Go on, Nazi! Kill him! Yay! Brilliant! Nazi! Come on, get him! Yes! Hooray for the Nazis! Yes! Deutschland überall is gone! Come on. Oh my God. Come on. Come on. Yay! The Nazis won! Hooray for the Nazis! Hooray! Hooray for the Nazis, everyone! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Please don't take this out of context and put it on YouTube. When you're dealing with a world in which facts are treated as though they've been dreamed up, you may as well make factual programs not just about stuff we know, but about stuff we don't know, i.e. the unknown, you know? Back in 1992, a fictional spook show caused a stink because viewers thought it was real. Yet 10 years later, viewers were so desensitised to fact-bending, ostensibly real paranormal investigations had become a telly staple.
We've had viewers saying they've seen orbs, these small lights that they've seen in various places. We think we've caught sight of them in the Undergroft. Have a look at this footage, which we recorded earlier on. Now, that is slow. That is amazing. I mean, is it not?
Thanks in part to TV's obsession with the supernatural, these days almost every son of a bitch in the country claims to have encountered a ghost at some point.
Real life spook talk.
I used to have this cup. It was a blue mug with a chip on the rim where you drink from. Anyway, one night I broke it. I dropped it or something. And I go, oh shit, you know. And a few weeks later, I was at a friend's house and I opened a cupboard and there it is.
The same cup?
Same cup.
With the chip in it?
No, gone.
Spook talk.
We were staying in a hotel room and very gradually it got colder.
How much colder?
Not much, probably a couple of degrees.
And how long did this last?
A couple of minutes.
You have been watching real life spook talk. Don't have nightmares.
And it's not just supernatural bibble people are prepared to believe. They'll choke down anything that looks like a documentary, even fatuous online conspiracy bumwash. All TV really taught us was to believe what screens said, even when they were lying. TV's relationship with information has taken fact on a lengthy and unusual journey. Documentaries morphed from highbrow historical lecturing into lowbrow historical pantomime remixing, and our taste for experts shifted from knowledgeable, respectable academics to tit-witted celebrity puppets. And what about those fact-based dramas? Well, this traditional sense of reverence soon got pissed through a tinsel-coated hosepipe. Where once the Tudors looked like old paintings, TV now portrayed them like the cast of a sex-crazed 16th century take on Hollyoaks. And the news went from a basic, unemotional explanation of the facts to a non-stop entertainment format sold on the basis of its emotive impact.
The world has changed, and we must change with it.
An entertainment format which sometimes talks to you like you're back in the classroom watching a school's programme.
So to have snow, the layers of the atmosphere below cloud level must be cold enough to keep the flakes from melting.
Don't patronise me, I'm not stupid, although I am 39 and bickering with the news. So what did I learn from television apart from catchphrases and theme tunes? Almost nothing. I just looked at stuff and ended up back where I started.
BBC One's on duty with a team of housing officers in a moment. Parties and rowdy behaviour causing trouble in Neighbourhood Watched. And comedy with the sixth formers on BBC Three now, and they're fighting their fears in coming of age. Here on BBC Two, highlights from the Cricket World Cup at 11:20.